Click the link, show my channel here over at Subscribe Star now over at Odyssey Throne, the various other links. Thanks for everyone over there. And I got a mailbox if you want to send me a comic or something you want me to read. Maybe a festive Christmas pair of socks. Thanks for that. So Alex Jones Network is back, and here it's literally just alexjones.network. He's not going anywhere. He's going to be doing this probably for the next 20 years. And The Onion is still not funny. The Onion hasn't been funny in a long time. The one thing they have, I think it's the clip still on YouTube, is the Grabler bit, which is freaking hysterical because it's so politically incorrect. But a lot of these things changed. Like I was thinking of Cracked and Mad Magazine. They all changed after 2016. And I think they both, Cracked and Mad, both went out of business, or they're in and out of bankruptcy every few years. Because once Trump came on the scene, everything became anti-Trump. And someone was explaining things like The Onion and social media companies and video game companies where you see the first picture, like a video game company is great. You see the first picture and it's like a half a dozen skinny white guys. And then you see the picture 10, 20 years later after they're massively successful, and it's, over half women with blue hairs, and these guys, they're essentially hiring their work girlfriend type of thing. It's like the guys start these companies, and like I think almost all these companies are, and I no offense to women, it's like men and women are just different. They're just different, do different things. Where if the company is started by men, then you really want like to maintain that. And it's this suicidal altruism of people where they destroy the company in 20 years because it's like suddenly they have human resources, where 20 years ago it's like we didn't have human resources because it was all one group of people. It was all white guys, or maybe even white and Asian guys, but they could say anything they wanted to, and there was nobody to complain because there was nobody who was going to get offended because it was all just one group of guys. And believe it or not, it's like when guys get together, it's very rarely do they say anything like crude or crass like that. It just doesn't come up where as much as I think people think it does when, I don't know if chicks like have these straw man conversations for guys in their heads or something. So The Onion has not been funny in a long time. So they tried to buy Infowars with a weird proposal with future cash, and he seems more energized than ever before. I'm thinking, cut free of Infowars. You don't need it. You are obviously Infowars. And if you discharge a lot of your debts in bankruptcy, then, this got to take a lot of weight off his shoulders. Like, just let him have Infowars. Don't even bother fighting it. And just start fresh with the Alex Jones Network. You created so many people were tied into him from the beginning. Mark Dice, who's a huge channel, is still on YouTube, but kind of barely allowed on YouTube. Owen Schroyer, who's the other dude? And I think he's going off on his own. Paul Joseph Watson, I think they all started with Infowars, and they're all just doing massively successful. It's like he can just start over, get some new interns, and he'll turn them into talents in their own right. So they tried to buy Infowars with this weird proposal with future cash, because they're barely profitable, but they keep getting bailed out. I'm assuming one of their benefactors are this a shadowy subsidiary of, eventually you trace it back, it's going to be Soros money. So they say they own it, but Alex Jones is saying that the judge vacated the decision because there was something improper about it. And the whole thing is weird. Alex Jones ran Infowars for probably 25 years as part, and so he lost it as part of a court judgment for a forced sale of the company, which is pretty weird in itself. It kind of reminds me of a whole Odyssey situation with it went into receivership because the library token, the Security and Exchange Committee got involved. It's like, Odyssey used to be a massive free speech platform. It seems like government got involved that put the kibosh on this. Why? It seems like a lot of very powerful people are terrified of free speech. Weird. And there's some shenanigans going on with Odyssey right now. Can I zoom in on this? Hold on one sec. If you've been following Odyssey, some of the channels have been getting demonetized. I had to go back through my old videos and put like 1,000 of them in the members section, because I went and listened to a few of them. Like, these are not allowed under terms and services. Some, you say things without even thinking of them, and these, epithets and slurs and one, I just kind of slip out. So this is kind of similar to Project Veritas and James O'Keefe, where I guess O'Keefe was getting a little, you get over target and you get that anti-aircraft fire. So they got rid of James O'Keefe really quickly, which everyone who was looking at that thinks that's absolutely bizarre. Why would you get rid of your star player? And most people probably assume that James O'Keefe started it, and it was he started from the ground up. But unfortunately, the way a lot of these things start, which is probably part of the conspiracy, is you get venture capitalists, like Tenet Media. You get venture capitalists who see the potential in something, and it's more than about a financial thing. It's more like they want control of something where they might need to control that narrative in the future with Project Veritas, and that's probably the situation with that. I don't know if O'Keefe really went into it too much because he just moved on to bigger and better things with O'Keefe Media. And Alex Jones is a bigger name than O'Keefe. So Infowars without Alex Jones obviously is freaking pointless because everyone just ended up following the individual with O'Keefe. He left Project Veritas that now has, I think, 1.2 million followers. I think they've been losing followers ever since. And they have no engagement on their tweets. And O'Keefe has got 2.8 million followers. And he's got 100 times the engagement. So something is not making sense there. He went all... I thought he started in the 90s. I think he did start in the 90s. So unless Veritas would rather fire their star because, like he was swimming in some deep waters and they got scared. You'd have to look back and see, like, well, what was O'Keefe researching when he got fired? Like that would probably be a pretty good indicator. Or he said something to them that, I'm gonna go research this hot topic, and suddenly their board of directors just essed their pants and said, no, we do not want to be Epstein if you touch some topics. So in a few years, O'Keefe Media can probably just go back and buy Veritas anyway if he wanted to. Probably the same thing with George Lucas and Star Wars. Anyway, the same thing is happening with Infowars, where Alex Jones just started his own network called Alex Jones Network. It's on Rumble, Odyssey, Twitter. I don't think he's allowed on Facebook and Instagram, but it really doesn't need it anymore because Twitter is just so massive. And I think it already has almost 200,000 followers on Twitter, and he's got this new website. And Brian Stelter, of all people, the guy who got fired from CNN, really for no reason, just I think part of the Trump wave had crested, and they got rid of him. But they hired him back, as well as Jeremy Tubin. I keep, like, that keeps coming back to me. Like, how can you watch Stelter? You can hire back, even Don Lemon, though nobody's interested in Lemon anymore. But like, you can hire those guys back if you want. They didn't do any crazy kind of faux pas. Lemon says something about women. It's like, okay, you can kind of overlook that. It's the Tubin thing that really got to me, because why would you hire him back? I understand he would want to come back, right? Because he's getting paid $800,000 a year. But why would you want that guy back? Unless he's kind of buddies with you, with the same people who are vacationing off the coast of Florida or something. That thing is like, and if you watch CNN, how could you? I mean, doesn't something click in your brain that this is really weird? Something is Tubin, Germany. You can look up what Tubin was doing. And they fired him, and then they brought him back. It's like that should be weirder. That should be a bigger story. Something else is. A reasonable company, a reasonable media company would not hire that guy back. That's bizarre. The optics of that. It's like you look at CNN, like, oh, you're not really a news company. You're something else. It's like that scene in the Body Snatchers, where the Asian guy's trying to tell the investigator that his wife is not his wife or something. Anyway, Stelter, he's like fat and bald. And he's in his 30s or something. Most people looked at him and thought he was way older, but he's just fat and bald. He seems like he should be happy, but he's happy over the forced sale, which is kind of odd because you'd assume that he would more broadly defend free speech because it's that's another thing is when you find out the media is also terrified of free speech and the First Amendment, it's okay for them, but not for us for some reason. It's like, yeah, it applies to all of us. We can all be the media. So you'd expect the media to really defend free speech, but of course they don't, because they're not really the media. They're on the same page as these other kind of big global interests. And the thing with the judgment for, I guess, defamation maybe, was you'd expect judgments, remedies, redress of grievance, even punitive damages to punish a company but not to try to put it out of business. And even if it's just to allow them to keep the business so they can continue to pay the judgment, which is very high. So this is kind of a little weird that they bypassed all the money that you get over Infowars over the next 20 years just to take the name and try to put them out of business, where they wanted to go beyond righting wrongs. They wanted to stop Infowars for some reason, which is known for mostly silly, hyperbolic reporting. It's like, wrestling. It's like, yes, everyone knows wrestling is fake. It's just entertainment. Infowars isn't exactly fake. It's just exaggerated type of, it has its own bias, just like CNN and MSNBC has their own bias. And, the weird thing about MSNBC is that I guess the parent company is looking to cut it loose. I thought MSNBC was a huge, massively successful company. I thought it was up there with CNN and Fox, and it turns out the 2020 elections are having some weird fallouts, because I thought, okay, well, to the left, and mainstream media is almost all left, since the opposition party is in power, the right-wing Trump, you would expect that their media would get much more attention because now they have a windmill to tilt against. But for some reason, that's not being the case, and they're continuing to fail. So I don't know what's going on. So it doesn't seem like Alex Jones is such a dangerous threat that they need to destroy him and his company. There has to be something else going on here, unless the goal was to send a Nina Jankowicz type of message that you cannot question the narrative, and anyone does is going to be destroyed. In this case, with 10 years of litigation, and that takes a lot out of you. Litigation is very stressful, and 10 years of it's like, credit to Alex Jones for just keeping his head down, let his lawyers go to work, and it's like, okay, well, I'm bankrupt. It's time to start up this new company and keep going after the deep state. But all this is not a good sign for free speech and the people who want to question narratives. There have been people in the media who have been fired for comments that later turned out to be correct, but they never got their jobs back. They were fired for questioning insane claims in some nonsense narrative, or how dare they ask for proof. And then a year later, it comes out like, oh, these people were right the whole time. You're going to hire them back like you did with Jeremy Tubin, the guy who had his pants around his ankles and no, they don't. It's only some narratives get protected. Or it's like with Rachel Zegler and Disney and Gina Carano, and now people are really upset about Disney. Which is funny because they just came back to Twitter to advertise, and Bob Iger did his his shareholder quarterly report or something, and he didn't mention the Snow White upcoming movie, which is obviously it's going to bomb. It's going to bomb even worse now because Zegler said that Trump and his supporters need to suffer for voting. She just issued an apology, but it's like, yeah, you didn't write that apology. Get stuffed. Anyway, so the narrative by the media and the government must not be interfered with. That's what they want you to know. There's a girl who worked for The Hill who rolled her eyes over some claim, some obviously false claim that was later proved to be false, and she was fired for it, for questioning the narrative. Or I remember the woman who interviewed Jussie Smollett, who thankfully was the same shade as he was, so she's not going to get in trouble for that. And she was not exactly rolling her eyes, but the look on her face was, yeah, this is MAGA country in Chicago at night, and it's like, yeah, there's no way this happened. And that was the expression on her face, but like she couldn't just come out. And it's like, as it turns out, yes, of course she was right. It's all this is just Jussie Smollett type of stuff. So the media is not the media anymore. It's 1984. They don't even make an attempt to be unbiased, which is now coming back to bite them in the tail because Disney with ABC is trying to pivot to appeal. Disney and ABC, they're both trying to, one owns the other, but they're trying to appeal to the more conservative audience that elected Trump, because both of their audiences are disappearing, and that is just so sweet to watch. They just went back to Twitter as Don Lemon, The Guardian, and Stephen King, and maybe some other nobodies also left. And nobody gives a darn about Don Lemon. Nobody cares about Don Lemon or Stephen King. Stephen King is a couple generations in the past, and he'll probably come back because these people go to Blue Sky or Mastodon or the Fed system, like, I don't know what, Nice Crew or Post or Gab or whatever Minds, that kind of stuff. and they just don't get the interaction. Where some lady was writing for the Guardian, the garbage, and that was her. What was her name? Zoe something. She was saying like to leave Twitter and her 70,000 followers and go to Mastodon with 700 is not quite the same, but like it's not ethical to use Twitter. It's like, but it was ethical to use it under the old owners, or you feel fine using Instagram and Facebook, owned by that lizard robot Zuckerberg and his $15 billion DARPA project, where that money just kind of disappeared and like nobody asked questions about that. It was some virtual reality piece of glow ops. Yeah, nobody cares about the Guardian either. For some reason, they think it's unethical. It's like the Guardian's not a media company; it's just a propaganda company run by a bunch of soy boys. So the attack on Alex Jones seems like it was a warning sent to an internet environment that existed 10 years ago, because there are so many more platforms, and there's micro and mini bloggers and media sources. I'd be the example of the smallest type of social media footprint, but there are thousands of channels that are this size, and they go all the way up to Steven Crowder size channels are probably some of the biggest ones. But when you add them all up, they have a lot of influence. And the proof of that was the 2024 elections, when the three mainstream media platforms, Fox, CNN, MSNBC, people were tuning out of them and they were watching alt social media. And 2026 is going to be even worse when people are watching elections, because mainstream social media it's just garbage. So when you add them all up, it turns out to be a lot of influence. So sending a warning to Alex Jones to scare everyone is pointless. There are a lot of alt media, alt payment processors now. So the derp state trying to control the media is going to be a challenge, but obviously they're not going to stop. They cannot allow free speech, because they have to accelerate, because things are getting out of their control, like Princess Leia said to Vader, except with the French solution, which is more likely than Lando Calrissian blowing up the globalist Death Star, if you follow what I'm saying. It's like, we have no idea. Madam. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Thanks everyone over at Throne. I will see you guys all next episode.